January is a great time to start planning and preparing for your spring and summer garden in the Northern Hemisphere. There are many different types of plants that can be planted in January, depending on your climate and the specific gardening conditions in your area. In this video, we will discuss plants that can be planted in January in the Northern Hemisphere, along with their ideal planting conditions and care instructions. Broccoli. Broccoli is a cool season vegetable that can be planted in January. It belongs to the cruciferous family, which also includes cauliflower, kale, and Brussels sprouts. Broccoli can be planted as seedlings or from seed, depending on your preference and the gardening conditions in your area. It prefers well-drained soil with a between 6.0 and 7.0 and should be planted in a sunny location. Broccoli is a heavy feeder, so make sure to amend the soil with compost or other organic matter before planting. To care for broccoli, make sure to keep the soil consistently moist and fertilize every 4 to 6 weeks with a balanced fertilizer. Pest and disease problems are minimal with broccoli, but be sure to keep an eye out for aphids, flea beetles, and clubroot. Carrots. Carrots are a root vegetable that can also be planted in January. They are a cool season vegetable that prefers well-drained soil with a between 6.0 and 7.0 and should be planted in a sunny location. Carrots are typically planted from seed and should be sown in rows that are about 1/4 inch deep. To care for carrots, make sure to keep the soil consistently moist and free of weeds. Carrots are relatively pest and disease-free, but can be affected by carrot rust fly and leaf blight, so be sure to keep an eye out for these issues. Daffodils. Daffodils are a perennial flower that can be planted in January. They are one of the first flowers to bloom in the spring, and their bright yellow and white flowers add a beautiful pop of color to the garden. Daffodils prefer well-drained soil with a between 6.0 and 7.0 and should be planted in a sunny location. They are typically planted as bulbs and should be planted in holes that are about 2 to 3 times deeper than the bulb's height. To care for daffodils, make sure to keep the soil consistently moist and fertilize every 4 to 6 weeks with a balanced fertilizer. Daffodils are relatively pest and disease-free, but can be affected by bulb mites, so be sure to keep an eye out for these issues. Perennial herbs. Perennial herbs such as rosemary, thyme, and oregano can be planted in January. These herbs are a great addition to any garden, as they not only add flavor and fragrance to your cooking, but also have ornamental value. They prefer well-drained soil with a pH between 6.0 and 7.0 and should be planted in a sunny location. These herbs can be planted as seedlings or from seed, depending on your preference and the gardening conditions in your area. To care for these herbs, make sure to keep the soil consistently moist and fertilize every 4 to 6 weeks with a balanced fertilizer. Perennial herbs are relatively pest and disease-free, but can be affected by powdery mildew and root rot, so be sure to keep an eye out for these issues. In conclusion, January is a great time to start planning and preparing for your spring and summer garden in the Northern Hemisphere. With the right planning and preparation, you can have a beautiful and productive garden throughout the year. Remember to always research on the specific needs of the plants you choose and to take into account your local climate and soil conditions. Happy gardening!